Hey guys, Ryan here, and today on Running with the Pack, I just got done watching, like a couple hours ago, the Texas Motor Speedway race, the AAA Texas 500, which, man, this Texas configuration, it's confusing. Yeah, I think they know at this point that the reconfiguration that they did back in after the 2016's fall race and the 2017 spring race, I think they know now that that was a mistake, and they tried to overcompensate for it with the amount of PJ1 that they put down on the track. So that was one of the big things I think that contributed to it. I mean, in the first stage alone, we saw so many drivers go down to it. Chase Elliott, I'll probably have a clip of that, but Chase Elliott spun early on in the race. I think lap 9 or something he spun out on, and now he is in, for certain, a must-win. I think he's like 70-something points below the cut line. He actually gained quite a few because of other instances that I'm going to go on to mention, but Stewart-Haas and Keselowski in the same corner spun out, coming across that same grip strip. I mean, all of them, both LaJoy twice, and that was all in the first stage. But yeah, I mean, the grip strip, I just think they overdid it to the point where there was so much there that there was just so much grip strip that it really was hard to get heat into it and get it to start working. Towards the end of the race, it did start to work, but I mean, the bottom was still absurdly better than the grip strip. Just from, I think they put too much on there to the point where there was so much to try and get heat to that it just didn't end up getting heat at all throughout the race. So I think that's something that massively hurt it, especially considering as the track cooled down. Of course, if the track is cooler, you get less heat going to that grip strip, which heat, as we saw in the Xfinity race yesterday, or 2 days ago as you guys are watching this, was a complete night race pretty much. Started at like 8:30 Eastern, and it was run fully under the night condition, and the grip strip was nowhere to be found pretty much. Then they applied tripled down on it, and it was just too slick too early for anyone to actually run there and start getting heat into it. So I'm going to be ranting for quite a bit here in the first part of this video, just because I think this grip strip caused so many issues for just so many different drivers that I think the grip strip, it has been a saving grace for tracks such as Pocono, Michigan. It saved those two races on their second run. The first Pocono was pretty bad, but second Pocono was actually pretty good, and I lay it down pretty much entirely to that grip strip, especially considering neither one was a playoff race. It's not like, oh, playoff pressure. I mean, I guess a little closer to the end, you've already had your Daytona Hail Mary game to try and get in, but for the most part, I lay it down to, I think, the thing that really kind of helped those races was the grip strip. But the grip strip was about a car length and a half, or a car width and a half wide, not 3-4 lanes of grip strip. So I think Texas should just look at restraint might have been better in this case, because then you don't have the grip strip completely dominating the entire racetrack other than that bottom lane. And the bottom lane ended up being the best, which, of course, if you guys have seen any Texas race, any of the fall Texas races since this repave, or if you've seen any Atlanta race, when the racing is around the bottom, Kevin Harvick absolutely is one of the best at just grinding it out around the bottom, and he was one of the best all night tonight. So, I mean, congratulations to Kevin Harvick, and I'm going to get to doing the running order later in this video, but I just kind of wanted to go here on early in the video, kind of talk about the actual racing product, because I think the grip strip absolutely hurt the racing here, because it was just so slick for so long that we really didn't get to see what the actual green flag race, or what the actual racing would have done without as much grip strip, or with a usable grip strip, because, as I said, I mean, even early on in the race, no one could get grip there early on to get it heat into it to activate the grip strip, so we never got to see any of it. So I mean, comes down to it, it's like, yeah, not much to really show for, I mean, for the grip strip. I mean, this is definitely a big negative that shows that they aren't just apply tons of grip strip and it's going to increase the quality of the racing. And to be honest, they shouldn't have ever taken that banking out of the repave. Like, I think the repave itself was fine, but taking the banking out, I think, was a massive detractor, and I'm sure it caused less fans to show up to the races. Now, I still think that there was a good 40,000, 50,000 people at this race, which, again, still would max out pretty much any football stadium. Problem is that there's just so many grandstands there because they used to have so many different, they used to have so many people that they could not fill the stands, they couldn't fill the stands. They couldn't have enough stands to fill all the people wanting tickets. I mean, they were sellouts instantly. So there were 150,000 seats, I think, at one point at Texas. Now I think, from what I've heard, the seat amount, like the amount of them, is at like 130,000. So still a lot of seats. And of course, when you get a crowd of 50,000, that's going to look empty. Same thing with Indianapolis earlier this year. But most football stadiums would actually max out at that same capacity. So I think that shows that NASCAR is still fairly healthy, and that was just something I wanted to address because I heard people complain about the crowd. But yeah, so let's move on, though. I've talked about the racing enough. Let's move on to talking about the finishing order. So as I kind of mentioned earlier on in the video, Kevin Harvick, he won this race. He won it pretty confidently. He led the first stage, which was a mess, and then he also led the final 70, 80 laps of this race as well. So good job for Kevin Harvick as well as Stewart-Haas in general, because 1, 2, 3 for Stewart-Haas. That's pretty good for a 4-car team. They had three of their 4 cars up in the top 3. That's really good for Stewart-Haas. So, I mean, great job for them. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to try and go through them a little bit quicker because I do realize that the video is going to be probably close to a half an hour, and I don't like doing videos too long past half an hour. But yeah, I'm going to also try and have the results somewhere on the screen, but hopefully you guys can tolerate that. Logano 4th. He did what he needed to do. He basically just needed to outperform Hamlin, which he did. And then we had Alex Bowman, who started 5th, finished 5th. Just kind of a good day, trying to build momentum for next season because he's already out of the playoffs. Also trying to maybe collect data for his teammate to use on the next mile and a half, which is Homestead, though I don't know how comparable Texas and Homestead are. Then we have the 2 Joe Gibbs drivers, MTJ, who it doesn't really matter much, and when we talk about the playoff points, or the playoff standings, Kyle Busch really doesn't matter for him. He got a solid top 10. Blaney, he got a top 10, but he needed to be outpointing Harvick and Logano. He finished behind Logano and Harvick, so he is going to pretty much be in a must-win next week at Phoenix, but we will talk about that later. I keep going on about that, but yeah, so Kurt Busch, Eric Jones round out your top 10. Clint Bowyer 11th. Yeah, just kind of solid days for these guys that were already eliminated from the playoffs. Larson, once again, just kind of trying to dig himself out of the hole, but again, because Logano and Harvick did so well in this race, it still leaves him in a pretty big hole, and he's going to be in a must-win pretty much going to Phoenix, and he had some words that we're going to talk about as well. So make sure you guys stay tuned, because I know this video is going to drag on quite a bit. But then we had Austin Dillon, Matt DiBenedetto, just kind of other guys, solid. Like the rest of the top 20 was all just kind of guys getting solid finishes. John Hunter Nemechek, not listed here, but 21st for that 36 car. That is better than we've seen that 36 car all year. I mean, I know that this race was wild, and Parker Kligerman got a top 25 finish, but that's better than we've seen that 36 car run all year. And I don't want to say anything negative about Matt Tifft, especially since he's currently, he's out of the car for the foreseeable future just because of injury. But the other notables that aren't up there, Denny Hamlin 28th and Chase Elliott 32nd. Two playoff contenders that had major issues today, and we'll talk about. I guess we'll just talk about the playoff standings as well, because I keep trying to talk about them. But in the end, I mean, yeah, those two really kind of just absolutely just gave their only shot to really kind of point their way to Homestead away, or at least attempt to. Martin Truex Jr. and Kevin Harvick now locked in with wins. Kyle Busch got is 22 to the good. We've got Joey Logano, who is 20 to the good, so 20-point difference. I don't see anyone really getting that unless, say, Logano wrecks and Denny Hamlin does really well at Phoenix, which I'm expecting Harvick to dominate at Phoenix. He's got the momentum. He's got the history. 9 wins already. He's probably going to pick up a 10th Phoenix win. Then we've got, below that cut line, we've got Hamlin, who kind of choked it away, which he is really good at choking away championships, and I even kind of said this to a lot of my friends that were saying that Hamlin was the championship leader, that I was like, pump the brakes. He does tend to give away chances to win championships. I mean, 2010, he gave that championship away. 2017, he really didn't show up in the playoffs much at all. Blaney, must win. And I don't even... Wait, what? Elliott, negative 78. I haven't even seen a points deficit that big at the end of an actual race. Man, he is... Okay, he is definitely way in must win. I mean, to be honest, if we were doing this without any win in you're in, he wouldn't even be able to win, sweep the stages, and get in. So, yeah, let's just... That's rough. But yeah, so I think, though, the big three and me from last year that went to Homestead for the championship are going to be the big three, and me going to the Homestead. Now, they haven't necessarily done the big three this year, and I know I said earlier this round, I thought, well, I mean, Hamlin, I even started to think that Hamlin might have gotten past this stage in his career where he's giving away shots at championships. But no, he's still giving them away. No, in heaps and bounds. So, yeah, Hamlin gave away another shot at a championship unless he can win or do really well at Phoenix and get lucky with Logano not doing so well. So, yeah. Oh, man. The playoff points, though, I think that those top 4 aren't going to change next week. So, yeah, I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. No, just kidding. I'm still watching. I'm still going to be making videos all of this next week. But let's just say, Phoenix, it's an exciting track. The racing will be... I feel like the racing will be good. But the playoff drama and all that, it's pretty much done until we get to Homestead. So, yeah. Playoff hype. I'm going to be just packing that up in a nice little bag and taking it on vacation with me. So, yeah, but we do have some other stuff, though, to talk about in this video. I'm going to go more in depth on attendance as well as some other stuff, I think, the track, some other controversies around this race, so we'll get right into that. Okay, so I kind of talked about the attendance earlier on in the video, but I want to talk about that again because there was something else that probably impacted the attendance, because the attendance was definitely not what Texas wants, and they have torn down almost no grandstands, so it very much looks like an empty crowd because they've got 130-something grandstands, and they had 40,000 people there. So, but I think one of the bigger things, now I know this isn't the entirety of it, it still would have been a pretty bad crowd even if this wasn't the case, but earlier today, around 2-ish o'clock, we had the F1 race. The Formula 1, the only Formula 1 race in the U.S. or this year and next year is the race at Circuit of the Americas, otherwise known as COTA, which is in Austin, Texas. So I wonder how many Texas racing fans went to Circuit of the Americas, the F1 race, the only F1 race in America, or they went to one of just another race at Texas Motor Speedway. I think I know what some people clearly chose, considering the grandstand size. Now, of course, it still would have looked empty because, to be honest, I mean, all the NASCAR tracks built up so much for seating back in the day, like back in like the 90s, early 2000s. They built up so many grandstands because they wanted to fit a lot of people in. And a lot of tracks have had to tear down a lot of grandstands. I mean, 40,000 would still be a packed house pretty much at Darlington, but at tracks like here and at Indianapolis, of course, Indianapolis will never tear down grandstands because they still have to supply seating for the biggest race in the world. But Texas, they don't have the biggest race in the world. They don't even have a race really that packs that house. I mean, the IndyCar race doesn't. The NASCAR races, the NASCAR Cup races certainly don't. And don't try and tell me that the Truck and Xfinity races pack the grandstands more than the Cup Series race, because they don't. And yeah, so I think that even the track president, Eddie Gossage, who, to be honest, has a big ego, when that, I think, has slowed down the taking down the grandstands, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, so but he even said earlier this week that they're thinking about a renovation to cut down on the number of grandstands. So looks like we could be seeing a reduction in the number of grandstands at Texas sooner rather than later, and yeah, I think it's about time. So that was one of the less controversial parts, but one of the ones that got very heated on Twitter and whatnot this today or tomorrow by the time, or yesterday by the time you guys are watching this, but I'm going to put the clip up here. But man, Denny Hamlin's car was destroyed by the grass, and I heard and I saw a lot of people basically knee-jerk reaction to that, saying they should add the turf in like they do at Charlotte, like they do at Charlotte, because you see at Charlotte, you saw, I think it was in the All-Star race, we saw several guys go sliding through the grass and their cars were fine. And it was like AstroTurf or something. Now, I think a big reason that Texas hasn't done it yet is because they just did a big remodel event back in at the end of 2016. Of course, Charlotte hadn't tested out this until they had the Roval, where they were going to have the chance of guys sliding through that grass very potently, because they added like the chicanes and whatnot around. So they replaced the tri-oval with this AstroTurf instead of grass, which it worked. Now, I think at the next big remodel, like when they go and take down all these grandstands at Texas, I think you will see them add turf in as well. And I think that they should, because it works. But I don't think that it's something they should just plan a remodel purely around this. I think, to be honest, I mean, I don't think the grass has been this big of an issue until today, because we saw in May lots of guys go sliding through that grass and not have cars destroyed. And sure, we don't want to see cars destroyed. Well, I don't, personally, as a fan, want to see just cars destroyed for no real reason by the grass, not even by anything else. So it's like, yeah, I mean, I definitely think the grass should go at some point, but I don't think it's a big enough of an issue to immediately just like, oh yeah, we gotta have a remodel this off season to add in the grass and to take out those grandstands. Especially since they just put a ton of money into a repave not too long ago, which the repave really ruined the track, but still. Same thing with tracks like Atlanta. I mean, I think whenever they eventually repave that track surface, I think they should also go and take out some of that grass and put in turf. maybe also renovate your infield road course, and so that we can run that for the Cup cars, because I think that'd be pretty cool. Just kind of other ways to revamp tracks. I mean, Texas has a road course variant, which I'd like to see the Cup Series at least test at. But that's neither here nor there, and not what I was really talking about. But I think some kind of renovation like that, I think it'll be a few years until Texas actually does that, especially considering the ego I mentioned in the track president. He probably won't go for someone else's idea too quick. But yeah, so that was a big hit for Denny Hamlin. Glad that he was okay, and the car was still good enough to run at least. I mean, he was 28th, but he ran the rest of the race. But yeah, so then also one more thing, I'm going to leave you guys on this note, and I know it's kind of not a great note to leave you guys on, but I'm going to talk to you guys about the controversy between Bubba Wallace and the Bubba Wallace spin, which was maybe intentional, maybe non-intentional. But yeah, so Kyle Larson, he basically called out, I'm not going to bother putting the clip in for copyright reasons, and NBC doesn't seem to like that. But when I use the interviews and then talk about them, but Kyle Larson essentially said that Bubba Wallace spun it out on purpose. Now, he basically said, oh, Bubba spun it out on purpose and it bit him and several other drivers, which it did. I mean, it was a very untimely caution for Larson, Byron, a couple other guys. I think Kurt Busch was also involved in that. But in the end, Bubba had a flat left rear tire. He wasn't going to be able to get back around to pit road. So, if he can't get back around to pit road, and he spins, trying to get back around to pit road, it's like, okay, I mean, that caution was coming out anyway, because if he stops there on track, that's a caution. If he tries to get going and he spins, that's a caution. If he gets going and doesn't spin, that tire is going to kick up debris, and that's a caution. So, in the end, there was not really a situation where I believe that he could have gotten going without either spinning up debris, or bringing out the caution for not going. So, I think Kyle Larson should walk back some of his comments. Now, of course, heat of the moment, this was like right after getting out of the car that he gave this post-race comment, but yeah. So, not a great look it's not a good look for Bubba Wallace, spinning out seemingly intentionally like that, but I think with the flat tire, I think there just was not an option, like a way that he was going to get that thing back going in any sort of forward direction that wouldn't have brought out the caution. So, I mean, it's really unfortunate for both Bubba, Byron and Larson and several others that were caught out by this. But, I mean, you can't really blame the guy for having a flat... I mean, yeah, he had a flat tire. He couldn't do much about the flat tire without getting back to the pits, which I believe he was trying to do. I mean, yeah, it does look intentional, and yeah, the caution would help, but, I mean, we've seen NASCAR give so many cautions for stuff that is less than a tire going down and spitting up debris. We've seen them throw cautions for tires spitting up debris. I mean, Blaney, 2 weeks ago at Kansas, very good example of this, where they threw up the caution for lots of tire debris. Who's to say if Bubba Wallace had gotten going and did that, we wouldn't have seen a very similar outcome. So, just kind of wanted to leave you guys on that. So, thank you guys for watching. If you guys enjoyed, leave a like. If you guys didn't enjoy, I'd love to hear some constructive criticism. Absolutely criticism on my, feedback on my content. Absolutely love it. Also, if you guys did really enjoy it and want to see more of it, feel free to subscribe. I do several videos and live streams throughout the week, so there's not going to be a shortage of content anywhere on my channel. As well as, if you guys want to support the channel, there are some links down below in the description if you guys want to go check those out. But, for tonight, this is going to be it. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!